Hi, buddy. How's it going? Let's see if everything works here. Hello, hello, hello. All right. All good? Hope you have a great Friday. Yes. Okay, it's working. I hope you have a great Friday. What's going on, everybody? Is it streaming? I think it's streaming. It's happening. Yeah. All right. Now people are coming in. Okay. Hi, everybody. Let me know in the chat if you can hear me good. If the audio is good. I think the video is quite good from my side. So, hey, Pratap. It is. Thanks, Sandra. Yeah. Very sure. Great, great. Hello. Hey, Dante. You can hear me. Great. So, I was thinking of like, oh man, it's Friday. Friday evening. What should I do? I don't think. Do I actually need these? Let's put these away. So, I was thinking of like what to do today. I just come in. Let's do a hangout. Let's do a Q&A about data engineering. I posted a lot this week about Spark and Databricks because I had a new course delivered on Monday. But Spark generally is a topic that is very, very dear to me, that I used for a long time, and was actually my first distributed processing framework. So, what do you want to know about data engineering? Your questions, jobs, education, real life experience, tools, whatever. Let me know in the comments. I'm here. Let's take this time. I'm finishing up my matcha tea here. Oh, that's an interesting question, Dante. Iceberg versus Spark. So I have heard about Iceberg, but I actually have not used it, or like I'm not 100% sure what this is. What I know is, and I actually liked an article on LinkedIn about this, that was about Spark or Databricks versus Snowflake, where they were basically contributing together or working together for a time, and then they split up, and because their offering is very much, or they're trying to position themselves as the same thing. And they were saying, I don't know who was that. He was saying like, you have on one side you have Databricks, and on the other side what they're doing is you have Snowflake and Iceberg. So I'm not sure about Iceberg, what that is. Let me know what's your thought, Dante, on Iceberg. Is this something to follow up, to look for? I talked with someone before about Iceberg, who might have had a job for me, or we were thinking about doing a stream about this, but I have no experience. What got me into data engineering? So for me, how I started this, when I started this, there was no data engineering, right? So it was back in the day in 2013, 2012, I started on that new project. I think roughly towards 2013, it got clear that, okay, we're dealing with a lot of IoT data, with a lot of sensor data. We want to visualize the data. We want to process the data with machine learning and so on. Where I got to the point where I was from classical computer science education. I knew user interfaces. I knew relational databases. I was able to code in Java, and I was trying to figure out how to implement this. But what I learned back then was the problem that there was so much data, and however I tried to do with it, store it, or give it to processing, or make it accessible for the data scientist, wasn't possible with what I learned. And then I started to look into all these things. Distributed processing, distributed storage was the first thing. So I came across, I remember Cassandra back then. It was some talk about Cassandra, and that was like, wow. And then I got into Hadoop, tried out Hadoop on my computer and in the company, and set it up locally, and then that developed from there. At some point I got more curious, tools got more intense, interesting, went to the cloud and so on. That's how I got into this. And I don't know, 2-3 years ago or something, data engineering was just coming up. It was like the title is quite new, right? So that's how I got into this. Do we need to test on scripts ETL job? I'm not sure what you mean. Do you mean do you need to test ETL jobs? That would be good to do some testing before going into production. Yeah. Testing is always tricky, of course, especially with distributed processing and so on. It's tricky because it's not like you can most of the time write a simple unit test and be done with it. Of course, you can test modules, but the whole thing at some point you need to bring into production, or you need to test in production. And that's why it's good to have something like a setup of, on your live platform, you're taking data from the same data source and you're putting it into a different destination, and then testing it out there so you can see the performance on the platform and so on. So testing is not super simple, but you need to test your ETL jobs. Yes. Do you need Python skills for Spark? So you can code Spark with Scala, with Python, with R, and with Java. I started back in the day with Scala, which was terrible. I struggled through it. I never really liked Scala. And nowadays everybody's using Python. So you might have seen because I did a poll today about this. I was posting a lot yesterday about previous polls that I was doing. And so let me just quickly bring that up here. Let me share my screen. Or can I share? No, I need to share the screen. Window. We try this. Window, share. Yes. Okay, here it is. So check this out. So which language do you use for Apache Spark? Right now, this poll, I did this. When did I do this? 7 hours ago. This has right now 1,185 votes on LinkedIn. 80% say Python. 15 say Scala. And there are a few interesting comments here why it makes sense to use Scala, but generally the main the main point that people bring in is start with Python, try to do something with Python, and then if that doesn't work, try Scala, right? Let me just make my mouse larger here. It's still that small. Shit. So that's, yes, look for Python skills or try to use Python, PySpark. It's really cool using it with PySpark, the combination PySpark, Spark data frames, and SparkSQL, where you can just use SQL. This is awesome. I highly recommend looking into that. That's the thing. Can Spark replace a data warehouse like Amazon Redshift? I would. So one alternative is there to Redshift that you could do, and that makes sense, is go on to Databricks. So Spark itself is just the processing, right? But what they did on Databricks, what I also show in the course, as I mentioned, that I posted on Monday, and I really like that, is on Databricks you can actually build a warehouse yourself. You can start creating tables. You can ingest data from, for instance, from files, run ETL jobs, all within Spark, put the data into tables, and then you can either make it accessible through the compute cluster to external clients, or you can even generate a separate data warehouse there with separate resources for clients to come in and actually create reports of the data. So that's the alternative more. It's not just Spark is the replacement for a data warehouse like Redshift, but I would say Databricks is. I really like it because that's where I'm coming from. I like Spark. So what Databricks is doing is really one-upping this and adding a warehouse. I think that's really, really cool. A few months ago, I joined my first project. My stack are Databricks, Data Live Tables, S3, Debezium. I actually don't know, Kafka. Is it a good starting point? Of course. So being able to do streaming with Kafka, do stream processing on Spark, and being able to do ETL jobs, that's the thing. Here is another statistic. Let me show you this. So there was another one here. What do you use Apache Spark mainly for? I asked this, I don't know, 2 weeks ago or something. So the interesting part in this was a lot of people actually were talking about ETL jobs, right? 74% use Spark mainly for ETL jobs and 20% only for streaming. So that is really, really interesting to know and very cool, because as you can see, you're on the right track. Either they use it for streaming or for ETL. Of course, yeah, you can use it for machine learning, but most likely you're going to use this for these two jobs, but for ETL mainly. So the stack that you're saying here, Databricks, Live Tables, S3, Kafka, this leads me to think that you're doing both. What is Debezium? I actually don't know. What is Debezium? Can somebody let me know what that is? So you're on the right track. It's good. That's a good starting point. What do we need to be sustained in data engineering? Learning tools for ETL like Talent, etc., or learning code for ETL like Airflow. So you have to. It's not really. So the important part in this. Yes, you can go with Talent. That it's not terrible, but I would start. And I would try to be more general. So not everybody's using Talent. Yes, Talent is quite good. It's a well-known tool. I haven't used it, but you could go the open source route as we were discussing before. Spark and Kafka and Spark and a data store or a cloud, like a data store for files and S3 and so on. actually process this. So yeah, learning tools, but ETL is the thing to look for. So yeah, Airflow is more for, yes, you can use Airflow for ETL, but Airflow usually you use for scheduling, right? You use for workflow orchestration. So you are not processing the data directly in Airflow. You would start with Airflow, for instance, a Spark job or a job in Talent, I guess, and then run this job and then run the next after that is finished and so on. That's most likely what you want to do with ETL. So absolutely fine. It makes sense to look into Airflow because it is so much used. And yeah, that's that. Look into that. What were the Google goodies? The Google goodies that I got for Google for the, let me get it here. One thing was a Fitbit. Actually, here. It's really cool because I usually go Nordic walking, so that's something. And I just have this here. And they sent me a waterproof bag, which is really, really cool. So actually this I can use a lot as well. So that was cool. That was nice. Python, Databricks for the win. Yeah. The thing is, you need to run your. So let's just talk about Apache Spark. Apache Spark, that also ties into this question from Mohammed. What is Spark? So when you think about Apache Spark, it's not that easy. Back when I set it up with Hadoop and with Cloudera, it was the fact that you needed to install everything on machines, and the setup wasn't easy. With Cloudera it was easy, but if you would want to do this as a standalone, setup takes some time, configuration, and the monitoring of it, the updating of everything, and so on and so on. So that is something that you always have to keep in mind. Now, how did I get here? Databricks for the, I think Databricks. So when you think of, okay, how do I want to deploy this in the future? How do I want to deploy and operate? It makes sense to actually go that route and of Databricks, and that's where Databricks is so nice. It's super easy to set up. You can set this up very, very quickly. And what I learned yesterday, today also with the setup is very important. That actually on Azure, it's even simpler and even better integrated than on AWS Databricks. So that is something very interesting, because I was asking here around, it's also in my timeline for here. It's also in my timeline on LinkedIn, so if you want to check it out. So what's the best platform to run Databricks on? AWS, Azure, and GCP. And I was like, wow, why is Azure here leading? Because usually AWS is leading everywhere. So that was interesting. And people were saying here, like, marketing, no, in this case not. What was this here? The integration with Data Factory and Key Vault is great. They have Active Directory integration for single sign-on and so on. So that's where this is very, very strong. That's why it makes sense to use Azure. Azure in general, why would you use Azure? And we were talking about this lately, because of that integration into what people usually have. Usually they have Microsoft products, they have Active Directory running and so on. And that's why Azure fits. And also you can never go wrong with Microsoft as from a manager perspective. So it's a safe bet for any corporate person. Um, did you use any performance monitoring tools for Spark clusters? So back in the day, that was all within, that you could find this all within Cloudera, within the Cloudera platform. You could see your nodes, you could see the memory on the nodes and the CPU load and everything on nodes, and could figure out, okay, where does that come from? You can look at through this Spark, through the UI, you can actually figure out how long are jobs running and which stages are problems. So that's what I used back then for performance monitoring. I'm sure you can do more, but that was the way back, and it wasn't bad. I mean, that was quite nice. What is DBT now? Everyone talks about DBT. So the idea with DBT is you're running, for instance, ELT jobs, where you extract data from a source, put it directly in the warehouse, and then you need to process it there. And a lot of people use DBT to actually then write the jobs. So for instance, you write your data into Redshift, or you write data into Snowflake, then you create DBT jobs, and that DBT jobs, then these start the processing within your warehouse and actually then transform the data. I'm not sure if that's the best thing ever. I usually, I think it's. I was asking before, is that the lazy man's approach? Like just dropping everything into the warehouse and then later using DBT to start the processing and do the transformations. But it's something to arguable. I'm not that experienced in that case, so yeah, it was interesting. There should be a post somewhere on my LinkedIn about that. Yeah, but it's worth looking into. I was thinking about doing a course about it. Not sure though. When using Databricks as your lakehouse for BI consumption, you have to leave a cluster on 24/7, or otherwise will take 3 to 4 minutes to turn off the cluster. How to solve this? You can't. No, that's the idea behind it. And I showed that also in my course. If you spin up a compute cluster, that thing is always, or needs to be on to access the data. Or if you spin up the SparkSQL warehouse, this needs to be on. The cool thing is that you can split this. So you could say, okay, my compute cluster, I'm starting the compute only for an hour a day. I'm doing all my compute, and then I'm shutting it down, and I'm leaving my warehouse on all the time. Yeah, that's the thing. The cool thing though with this is that you're not the pricing is not based on the amount of data you consume or the amount of data you process. It's based on the price of the instances that are running all the time, right? So what you actually do on the cluster doesn't really matter. And that's something where a lot of things lack, or like a lot of software as a service tools from Azure or from AWS or from GCP lack, or are not optimal. Like if you think about AWS Glue or Athena or stuff, that when you keep running this, you're paying on the amount of data scanned, which is pretty problematic and gets very expensive very quick. So yeah. There's no way of solving this otherwise, as I know. Dante, have you struggled with this before? Is that a problem for you? How have you been? At first I was reading. How have you been? Yeah, thanks. I've been good, doing a lot of work in the background. slacking on the live streams. I know. Sometimes I'm so lazy and I can get myself to do these streams, although they're fun. Whenever I do them, they're fun, but to get started with these things, that's the big thing. And that's, I think, also where a lot of people struggle, is like you have that knowledge and you have that interest in putting yourself out there, but it's like, oh. So that's why I never get around to doing these daily, because I can't bring myself to do it. I don't know why. It's annoying. Is NiFi a good tool to start with? So NiFi is a cool tool. I was looking into this years ago. I even did this on YouTube, I think. But it never really got big. It's a cool tool. It's a cool tool for orchestration and for like point and click creating of pipelines. It's cool. Unfortunately, I think NiFi really never took off, which is a bummer, because I really like it. I like it because it was also nice on the monitoring front, where you could see how many messages are going through the pipeline and so on. So it feels like it never really took off. But if you're interested in it, look into it. I say it's a cool tool. It's fun to work with. How do I get Databricks free subscription for practice PySpark and PySQL? Absolutely no problem. What you do is here. You go onto Databricks.com and then you click here, get started for free. And that's it. This is how you get started for free. It's how many days? 14 days full trial with full everything. Really cool. The only thing that you have to do is, if you're not under, like if you're choosing AWS to host it and you're not under the free tier, you have to pay for the AWS resources. If you're within the free tier on AWS, perfect. Otherwise, you need to spin up AWS EC2 instances, which is going to cost you. But if you're just doing tests and so on, how much? Like it's costing maybe $5 or something. It's not that expensive. So that's how I would start with this. Just go in it. What I did in my course is I basically showed people from start to finish how to set this up, how to ingest data from S3 and from local files that we uploaded into tables, and then visualize this process it, visualize it with notebooks, or use it with Power BI. And you can do that by yourself. Just go in there. It costs you absolutely nothing. 14 days trial. It's really cool. I actually really recommend this. Do this. AWS DMS versus Debezium, which is better for CDC. You're asking me questions. What was DMS again? Database migration service? I have no idea. No idea. So these questions, Google. Debezium is a change data capture platform. Okay, the achieves its durability, reliability, and fault tolerance qualities by reusing Kafka and Kafka Connect to grab data from Mongo. Okay. Hey, that's nice. That's a cool. Okay, Andrew. That's a really nice use case that you have if you do it like that. Nice. That's a cool thing, because if you can do this with these tools, you can later go on everywhere and can do this on other platforms as well. So keep focusing on that. That's cool. Do you consider GCP to be underrated? I find it very easy to use and well documented, yet people don't seem to use it a lot. Yeah, it's like GCP is not the main platform It's the behind AWS and Azure. It's the third most used platform. So I'm not 100% sure why it is. Yes, the user interface is really good. I know people use a lot BigQuery as the warehouse, as the serverless warehouse. So they do very often a hybrid cloud approach where the data gets put into S3 and then visualized and analyzed with BigQuery. But actually the processing, I'm not 100% sure. I know people use it for machine learning because it's good for that, and Google optimizes this for machine learning. But I'm wondering this myself. Why is GCP not used more? I don't know. I think we should do I should do a course on that, because I had students do the same thing or do platforms on GCP, and from what I have seen, always it was very nice with Dataproc and Dataflow and like Cloud Spanner and so on. It's nice it's easy to set up and nice to use. You can even setting up APIs is quite interesting or quite easy, and the APIs, as you said, are not the API. The documentation is also good. So I don't fully know why that is. I don't know why that is. Maybe if somebody has an idea, put it in the chat. I don't know why. It's so back to the question: is it underrated? I think so. What is Databricks? A data lake. So how they call this? It's a combination. What they do is it's called Delta Lake. The idea is that you have your data, for instance, in AWS S3, and you then create as a data lake, and then you create a warehouse on top of that. And you basically, whenever you talk to these tables, you query data from the data lake. So it's a data lake supported warehouse, the Delta Lake, and that's basically the two levels, right? And that's where Databricks is doing a really, really good job. So yeah. Let me quickly says. Can Databricks replace ADF? I'm guessing that's Azure Databricks. Yeah. Azure Data Factory. Yeah. That's a processing framework. You can do batch and stream processing with it and so on. The thing is, people were saying it's also you can use Databricks on top of Data Factory. I'm not sure how, but it seems like that integration is really good. So look into that. Do you honestly enjoy data engineering? Not always, but most of the time I really liked it. Yeah, I really liked it. It's and I still like it. The thing is, for me, I like to think about architecture a lot and looking into new tools and getting new experiences. I'm the type of person that when I work on a bunch of tools or a setup for some time, it gets boring for me. And so I need to look and I need to try new things and so on. And usually what I do is, like with the Databricks course, I teach this myself, or in the Databricks course example, I had somebody who actually helped me with the development. And so I'm learning it myself, and then I'm teaching it to other people as well of what I have learned and trying to boil everything down so they understand it as well. So I enjoy data engineering a lot. I could never imagine being an analyst or a scientist. I'm always in the engineering. I'm always into tools, into processing and struggling through problems and coding. I really like it. I hope, like Jeremy, if you don't like this, if you don't enjoy data engineering, maybe you're in the wrong spot. Maybe it's for you, it's the wrong track. Maybe more the data analytics jobs, like analyst or scientists, are more for you. I'm an Azure engineer with experience mostly into infrastructure management, public cloud migration. I want to transition to data engineering. What would be a good place for me? Good place to start for me? A place where you are. I would start staying on Azure, building pipelines on Azure, build a streaming pipeline on Azure, use APIs, use Event Hub, use Data Factory, use Cosmos DB, use how's the warehouse called? Synapse and Synapse Analytics. To try to create stream and batch pipelines on there. Stay there for now. You know it already. You know Azure. You know how the interface works. You know how to set up stuff. Go this route. That's how I would start here, and start processing data on Azure. Think about so that's what I have in the academy as well. I have a course on Azure, how to get started, how to write in a streaming pipeline. Christian did that for me, so I didn't do that course, but that's stuff. Yeah, look into that. Oh, interesting question. I work as a data engineer, but almost all the system workloads are on GCP platform. What is your advice regarding tech? I might need to learn to switch to companies that don't use GCP as main tech. I might need to learn to switch to companies. So you want to switch to companies where that don't use GCP. Then go with AWS. You have a lot of knowledge in GCP, know how this works. Most of the time it works the same way on AWS. So it should be fairly easy for you to transition from GCP to AWS, especially for let's call it the base services. So do that. Either get an expert in GCP, or if you already know the companies that you're targeting are using other platforms like Azure or AWS, then go and learn and apply your knowledge on these platforms and try to figure it out. You can do that. Abby, you can figure that out. Don't worry. Databricks community, free forever, but has cut down functionality. I don't know. Is it? But how do you run this then? And what functionality is there? Let me try to. I need to juggle a bit with the Windows here. Solutions platform. Do they have an open? Solutions. Price, because the pricing here didn't say something about that. Pay as you go pricing. Trial. No. What'd you write here? Databricks community. Community edition. FAQ. I actually didn't see that. What's the... So it's reduced on the amount of things. Huh. So that might be interesting. Might be interesting to look into. What's that? Ah, I still have the super chat feature enabled. I didn't even know that. Thanks, Etio. Actually, I have no idea what CLP is, but thanks for the super chat, Etio. Oh man. Do you think your course on Databricks helps with the DBT 2 or 3 certification? Absolutely not. It helps. So what I'm aiming for with my courses, I'm not gearing my courses towards certifications. So what I'm doing is I'm gearing my courses towards helping data engineers get into that topic and start. Either we're doing a complete project end to end, or in that Databricks course, in that Databricks example, get started on Databricks, get comfortable with how do you set this up, how does this work, how do you run jobs on this, how can you use notebooks, how can you connect your external visualizations in it, and so on. So it's geared towards somebody that like, I wanted to start with Databricks forever, but I don't like, or I don't think it's easy, and I don't want to waste a lot of time on this. So this is a 1.5 hour boiled down version of, okay, get started, get comfortable, and then from there go on and try stuff out, and then you know how it works, and gain more knowledge. A second course would be more towards deeper information, but for now, no. This only lays the foundation. So gearing is not geared towards a certification. And me telling you that this helps with the certification would not be the right answer, I feel like. Thanks for the super chat. Oh man. Thoughts on Apache Beam? Do you think it's better than Spark? I know it's a competitor to Spark. Haven't ever used it. Beam. What was the other one? Dremio. I asked that as well. Let me see if I can quickly find this. Didn't I ask this as well? Competitors. I was in my thing here. I was Flink, Dask, Dremio. These three I had here. Flink, people said was the biggest competitor to it. So yeah, Apache Beam. I think Beam is for isn't Beam also on GCP? Yeah. Of course. That's a lot for about the processing on GCP. So yeah, I don't know if it's better than Spark. I'm a BBA student. What's BBA? I'm sorry about my ignorance. Chilean pesos. Okay. Thanks. I don't like, is that bad? If it's your currency, it's okay. Thanks for the how do you say this in English? The gesture. Yeah, the gesture. Thanks, Etito. So what's BBA here? BBA student, BBA. Bachelor of Business Administration. So the problem is coming completely without any computer science experience. So without coding, without databases experience, it's very, very difficult, super difficult. So you maybe want to first start getting some formal computer science education before you get into data engineering, because otherwise, as a Bachelor of Business Administration, yeah, that it's going to be very difficult. But if you're interested in tech, if you're interested in getting into coding more than business administration, yeah, software development, this is awesome, which basically this is, right? For me, many tasks can still be done from the GUI in AWS, while in GCP, plenty of tasks are done by the console. Might be wrong, but that might be the reason. Hey, Eka. Okay. I haven't even read the name. Eka, hi. Could be. For me, so I'm a GUI and a visualization guy. I know how to work the console, but I've actually never been a big console user. So this might be one thing that people don't like. Hardcore developer always like coding, like CLIs and consoles and stuff like so. But for the average Joe like me, might be, yeah, that might be the thing. But also the GUI that I experienced when trying it out, when using BigQuery and so on, and when looking at what my students were doing, it's not bad. I mean, I work with a team of 9 with some workflows on Airflow, only batch for now. Doesn't matter. That's good. It's not bad. Hey, team of 9 is already really, really cool. It's really cool. When I started, it was a team of 1. So it was the upside because I had a lot of choices and I had a lot of options to experience everything. But also it was the problem that I didn't have or I didn't have anyone to talk to discuss all this. So that's where data engineering really now is really cool. And for you with a team of 9, you have your colleagues, you can discuss stuff, right? So that's really cool. Is that all? And as we've seen before within the what are people doing most on Databricks, ETL is still the thing. Many data sources don't offer you a streaming pipeline. They're still in or have you still ETL things. So yeah, or ETL options. So it's perfect. Cool. Hard to implement Spark? Nah. Especially with Databricks, super easy to set everything up. Spark as well is, if you know, once you know the basics, it's not very difficult. The thinking behind it is very different than usual coding, right? The distributed thinking of processing, but once you understand how that works and why it is how it is, it's not super hard to implement. So what you see more often, streaming pipelines, batch pipelines. For me back then, it was streaming, and I'm coming from the streaming world because of that use of the data gets generated in a streaming manner and gets put in there in a streaming manner, and there's coming a constant stream of measurements of data points in. But I just want to go back. Maybe you haven't seen it. Let's just quickly go back here. Where was that? Here. It's still ETL jobs is the main thing here. So, and I think that's not just on Spark, that's also generally. So you're perfectly fine. Go for that. Start with that. I see it more and more going towards streaming, but you can't use streaming for everything, and it will take some time. So what we see more often, definitely ETL, definitely. Also, I find it very difficult. I saying definitely, but it depends on the industry that you're in and on the use cases. So for some use cases, it makes no sense to do ETL. So then you have very often streaming. For others, it's completely the other way around. So keep that in mind. Yeah. So what do we have? Some Azure data architect recommends Databricks for bronze, silver layer, and Synapse SQL data warehouse for golden layer. What's your opinion? So let's think about this. So when would that make sense? So you get your data, you have ETL jobs. Let's write this here. Let's try to quickly whiteboard this. Let's try to whiteboard this quickly. So let's put in here. Let's put in your data source here. Then we take in here, we take Spark. Then we have data source. This might be, well, yeah, data source, Spark processing. Then you have your bronze table, your silver table. Come on. Silver table, here. This most likely is here. This, let's dot this. This here is Databricks. Right. But actually, so this takes the data from, we're too big here. Just a sec. Let's go down here. So come on. So we have our data here, Databricks. Let's make this a bit smaller, like this. But the data for these silver and bronze tables, and most likely the gold table as well, so I'm guessing this is all Azure here. So these tables are within Databricks, but the actual data, let's make this blue. The data is here. Data. How's the file store? Right, like this, and like this. But this gold table here, that is, what's it called? That is, where's your question gone? Here. So the gold layer is SQL Data Warehouse Synapse. So this is Synapse here. Right. Now why would you do this? Right. What I'm guessing is, so what Spark is doing, Spark's taking the data, is putting the data into bronze table, and from there you do processing into this table here. Oops, come on. So you write a Spark job that takes the data, processes it, puts it into the silver table. And then you would do a second one that actually, how would you do this? Most likely you would have, yeah. You could write a Spark job here that puts the data out as files. And then you have the Synapse where you get the gold tables here. And on the other side here, that is where you have your data consumers. Consumers, Azure. Let's call it Azure. This could be Power BI or whatever, right? How's it called? SQL. So why would you do this? You would do this because of the consumers, right? You have your data source, and this data source could also be Azure here. This could also be GCP. This could be, let's make this green. This could be also AWS. So let's mark this orange, right? But what you want to do is this processing. You don't want to do this, or you don't want to handle the processing here. No, let me rephrase this. I need to quickly figure this here out. I want to make this transparent here. So you don't want your consumers to give, or you don't want to have your consumers to access these tables here or access data into Databricks, right? This here, or let's mark this red here. You don't want that because most likely you have single sign-on and everything you have set up here in your Azure installation, so that the consumers, they all work in the Azure environment. But Databricks is better for the processing, for the handling of the early stages. That's why you most likely will do it like this. You could even, and I'm not sure if I would set this up like this, that I export to files, or that I actually create a gold table here in Databricks as well. But this gold table is not accessed from within Azure. This is accessed just from the SQL warehouse. Right? Does that solve that question? I think that's how I would set this up. Here, I would set it up like this, because this makes it very nice for you to have this Databricks that only does the processing, does not get external access and so on. And you stay with the data consumers who analyze the data and so on. They stay within the Azure realm, let's say. Yeah, and the file store is all within Azure. So let's make it like this. Let's make it like this here. Let's put this here, Azure. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah. I hope that was interesting. A quick architecture lesson here. So as I said, I love these architecture thoughts. I think that's the case why they do it like this. Silver and bronze is within the Databricks layer, and Synapse uses the gold layer because the Azure consumers then work within the Azure platform and don't have to access the Databricks thing. Yeah. Can you talk about event-driven data processing with AWS services? What are the main things to look up while designing this architecture? So we would need to have a clear use case of what we want to design. There are so many factors. It's difficult. what you could use and what you it's. I'm sorry, Mahesh. That it's too general. Hi, Nick. You're welcome. Yeah, that's what I'm here for. That's why I do this Friday hangout. Yeah. Tell me about free resources, please. So, most of this stuff is free. So let's start it this way. Free resources for data engineering. So one cool thing about data engineering is that the tools that you're using are mostly free. So you can do ETL processing, or you can do streaming fully with open source tools. That's one thing. So you don't necessarily have to pay for infrastructure. I don't want to push my academy for this because you're asking for free stuff. But if you go to the academy, I'm showing you there. No, forget about this. So look into 8 APIs, for instance, with Fast API. Look into Kafka, Spark, something like MongoDB, and Power BI or something. These things you can already learn data engineering with these 5 tools that are free, where you can start. The documentation on these tools is super good. So if you want to start free, go this route. And most likely you can find something for free, or just go like, now I'm opening it again. Let me show you something. So let me bring this here and then share my screen again. So what I do in my academy, and I just want to show you this as an example. I don't want to push the academy, buy the academy or something, but it's like, no, that's time series. LS here. So what I recommend you to set up is something like this. Oh no, I actually linked to that board here, I think. Yeah, I linked to that board. So go and look for the document streaming thing in my academy. And here you have the exact setup that you should do. Get yourself a data set, like one from Kaggle, e-commerce data set. Create an API, use the API to write data into Kafka, create Spark, set up Spark, everything with Docker. There are prepared Docker containers for everything, MongoDB, Streamlit dashboard, and then you build something like that or connect Power BI to that. That's how you can already start with that, or go into single courses first or single tools. Look into Spark, right? How to write an ETL job with Spark. Look into Kafka, how to use Kafka, how to start streaming with Kafka. Stuff like that. That's the way how to start for free. And again, the documentation is super good in most of these tools. So yeah. That's how I would start. Free resources. Just Google has a lot of stuff out there. That's a start. Look at what I do in the academy and try to replicate this if you don't, if you want to do this for free. I feel like 3 tables is too many for ingesting one data source. I don't get it, Tommy. Just need a place to land the data and put the simple transformations into. Not sure what the third or gold layer would be needed. So okay. Actually, I need to write this down because I'm currently thinking about adding stuff to my platform and pipeline design course. Silver, bronze, silver, and gold. What these tables mean is these tables define the quality of data that you find in these tables. So usually a bronze table is something where an ETL job comes, drops the data in, boom, and that's it. That's without a lot of pre-processing. That's the bronze table. Now you need to correct me in the comments if I get this wrong, because I try to do this from memory. I don't have this somewhere up. The silver table is usually the table where you say, okay, I did some additional cleaning on the data and I prepared the data, and now I have the silver tables where like I prepared the data for other use cases. So it could be that, I made sure that I did another cleaning step. That's the silver table. And the gold tables, these are the ones that are usually the data warehouse tables. This is where you, for instance, set up your star schema, or you know, with your how are they called? Fact and dimensional tables. That would be the gold layer, the data warehouse layer. And that's why you would use these 3. You would use one as the staging table. This could be this most likely is the bronze table. Then you would use one for the table where you can say, okay, this is my clean data, my pre-processed data. That's the silver. And then you bring it into the gold table where you know this is your warehouse. This is the good table. The good tables. This is the clean data. This is the perfectly organized data. That's why you would use these 3 layers. So I hope this gives you a bit more insight, Tommy, why you would use 3 and not just 1. And the gold table is not just 1; it's multiple tables usually. That is a very good question here. I love that. So where would a orchestration tool like Airflow fit into a streaming pipeline? Most likely, nowhere. Most likely nowhere. Because where would you orchestrate something there, right? So if it's a full streaming pipeline, where there is no no scheduling, no interaction, it's completely data driven, you don't need Airflow. It's because there is no scheduling, there is no orchestration. The pipeline orchestration is set up once. This stage triggers this triggers this triggers this, and that's it. So you would not use Airflow there. It's pretty cool because it saves you a lot of money and time. Thank you for the stream. Very insightful. Thanks. That's what I aim to do with these. So I think we need to finish up, guys. It's 5:45, and I just hear my wife and the kids coming home, so it's getting louder in the house, and I want to help with making dinner. So a few questions. I know advanced SQL, intermediate Python, Azure DP9000, which tells me absolutely nothing. Can I start applying for data engineer roles? I'm a fresher. Apply for junior data engineer roles. And Manish, what I would do, I don't know if you have that already, create yourself a GitHub and do a project on these tools that you know. Show what you can do. Document this on GitHub. Make it a nice documentation with visualization and everything. And then apply to junior roles that use Azure, where you use Azure. You will be fine. Will be absolutely fine. If you already did it, a certification on this, you should have hands-on knowledge. If not, you are going to practice that within the documentation that you're doing on GitHub and within the project. And if you know SQL and intermediate Python, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. I'm a Bachelor of Wirtschaftsinformatik, so Germany. Hey. So it's, I think, yeah, okay. So it's, what's Wirtschaft, Alex? What's Wirtschaftsinformatik in English? What's that for everybody who is not? Business informatics, is that right? Business informatics. Am I thinking becoming data analyst? Possible to with a bachelor? What skills should I get? R, Java. So kein guten Begriff, das ist not a good one. Yeah. So what you should do? Yeah, look into these. Look into R. I think R. Yeah, R is a good thing. So look into how to analyze data. Get comfortable with BI tools. Look into something like Power BI, Tableau, and so on. Get comfortable with analyzing and visualizing data with R. Java, I don't think Java is very important there. So look into, try to find out what were people doing in that sector. Yeah, data warehouses is a big thing there. Working and analyzing data with R. You could also do data analysis with Python, but go more into the analytics realm. Yeah, but it's for business informatics. That's good. That's good. 1/3 economics, 1/3 informatics, 1/3 combining topics. Explain English. Yeah, that's a good combination. So use that combination. Use the informatics to understand, okay, what's with the platform? How does that work? Where does the warehouse come in? How does the data look in a warehouse? And then with your economics background, that's the background where you can, that allows you to do these analytics jobs, workloads, analytics things. So it's actually for analysts, this is a good foundation to be able to go into a company, say, okay, give me the tools, give me the data, make the data available in a warehouse. I'm coming in with R, I'm coming in with a BI tool. I'm going to create you reports and analysis on this part because I have the business knowledge background or business background. I can figure out what's the problem, the business problem, and I can figure out a solution through my technical R skills and Tableau skills and so on. That's a very solid way how I would attack this. Again, the warehouse might be an interesting part to actually look into data warehousing and figure that out, because most likely that's the basis for you to where you get the data. Sometimes you get it from files, but most of the time you most likely get it from a warehouse. So this combination warehouse analytics tool like Tableau, R, files, and the business knowledge of being able to understand the business problem and figuring out a solution, coming back to how to do this. That's the way to go, man. That's the way to go. I've been watching a lot of your videos recently. My 4th interview with Bain for data engineering is 30 minutes. Is in 30 minutes. You're welcome, Thea. Holding the thumbs is how it's called in Germany. Good luck on that. We're going to pass that. Not because of my stuff, but I'm guessing because if you watch me or if you watch other people, I'm guessing you're into that topic. You know how to prepare for that stuff, and yeah, you're going to most likely have learned a lot. And don't worry, Theo. Just go in there and have fun. Ask a lot of questions. Ask them what they're doing. In that interview, also try to, whenever you don't know something, try to relate it to something you have used. Like, oh, I haven't used that thing, but I haven't used Redshift, but I have used BigQuery before. So in BigQuery, you would solve that. How are you doing this? And try to make this a conversation. Try to ask questions. Try to relate questions to something you have done. If you don't know the exact answer for it, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. Send me. I know you're on YouTube. Post a comment on YouTube in this video after your interview and let me know how it went. Did I miss something? Question on databases. What do you use for on-premise query engine that support Parquet and partitioning? On-premise is always. So what could you do? You could use Hive there. You could set up a Hive, a data warehouse with Hive, Spark, Hive, this direction. You on-premise. I think Druid can do stuff like that. Query engine. What was how was that query engine named? That is basically Athena, just open source. Athena alternative open source. Presto. Look into Presto. Here. Let me put this into something. Come on. Dock onto this so I can show it in the stream. Here. Look into Presto. I think you can also set this up locally and run this. So this works with a lot of tools. This works with a lot of platforms. This also works with Druid and so on. So with Hadoop and whatever. So look into Presto. I think that's a real cool solution where you can write SQL, and it's free. So look into that. Do you use Snowflake? What role does it play in data engineering? After this stream, go back and I'm not going to explain this again. So we in the 15 minutes in, we were talking a lot about Databricks. Oh no, Snowflake. Snowflake. Oh well, Snowflake is they used to be marketing it as the cloud data warehouse. Now they're marketing it as the cloud platform. So it's a direct competitor to Databricks. In my opinion, I don't know about that, but that it fits more into the data warehousing part. Let's call it this. You're welcome, Theo. Bitteschön. Roadmap for video for career planning and data science. Data science field is difficult. I need to start next step to learn how to approach lifelong learning in this field. So data science is not really my thing. So data engineering, I think I already did a video. Didn't I do a video about Alex? I think I did a video about roadmaps are terrible or something on YouTube. I think I talked about that before. Yeah, look into my YouTube channel, into the previous videos. I haven't uploaded that much lately, so I think there is a stream or a video where I talked about this. Yeah, presto, Mike. Yeah. Okay. Then I hope you had fun. I had fun here. 1.5 hours. So, and this is still my first drink, so I need to drink more. So, hope you had a fun time. If you're on YouTube, hit the like button on this. And if you're new to data engineering or want to learn data engineering, check out my academy. This is the place of the time here for me to plug the academy. So check out the academy. LearnDataEngineering.com. Here I have a list of what you can learn in 1 month or 3 months. Like the fundamentals most likely takes a month. In 3 months you have you can build an open source platform with Spark, Kafka, and so on. Spark, Kafka, MongoDB, Airflow, and everything. You can learn that in 3 months. Or in 3 months, get started on AWS and create a full platform with stream and batch pipelines and Redshift and everything on AWS. I also have stuff on modern data warehouses in Azure, like Databricks and with BigQuery and Data Studio and so on. So check it out if you're interested. LearnDataEngineering.com here. And yeah, that's a shameless plug on the end for my academy. And then, yeah, sorry for not getting to all the questions, but at some point I need to make a cut. Scott and Johan, sorry for not being able to answer these. AWS, Azure, which one is better for switching? Most likely AWS because it's the most used. And then I need to cut this off now and leave. Thanks for being here. I had a really great time. I see right now 20 people here on YouTube. Thanks guys for staying here. And I also see 50 still on LinkedIn. So thanks guys for being here. Thanks for the support. Again, thanks Etito for the super chat, which I didn't even remember that these things are enabled. And yeah, have a great day. Have a great weekend, everybody. I hope you have a great rest of the Friday. And yeah, see you later.